Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Hannah and today we're going to be doing a sit and knit video. I know, I've been doing so much book content lately and these sit and knit videos are something that I was doing last year, but I kind of want to revisit that kind of video just one last time. Just one last time because this month means a lot to me in the sense that I really wanted to talk about it on here and use this platform to bring light to Turner syndrome. Because unless Turner syndrome has kind of came into your life somehow, whether it is that you have it or that someone you know has the condition, if that's not the case or you're not a medical professional that has some knowledge about it, you probably don't know what Turner syndrome is. So I want to be here to let you know what it is, to bring awareness to you, and kind of also very important to me is if you are newly diagnosed, let this video not only give you the information and things that you're probably very desperately wanting, but also kind of bring you peace of mind. Because although I've had Turner syndrome my whole entire life, like everyone with Turner syndrome has, but the difference for me is that I was diagnosed with it before I was even a fully fledged human being. The term is like diagnosed at birth, which is incredibly rare for Turner syndrome. I'm incredibly privileged in that fact because Turner syndrome has such like a sucky kind of tendency to be missed and to leave anyone leave people going undiagnosed for such a long period of time, for like a good chunk of their life. And we can only hope to make the diagnosis process easier for people, especially ones going through it later in life, because it can be scary. It can be scary for the person being diagnosed, it can be scary for their family, loved ones, friends, so that's why we have months like this to bring awareness and to bring knowledge to people that don't have it, but also to bring reassurance to people that need it too. So that's what this video is here to do. So without further ado, let's just get into talking about it, because let's do it. So if you don't know what Turner syndrome is, it's a condition which is well, if you think back to that biology lesson where you learned about chromosomes, you probably learned that there's two X chromosomes and an XY chromosome, depending on the sex of the person you're talking about. So when you're assigned female at birth, the presumption is you're going to have two X chromosomes. But for Turner syndrome, that's just not true. For Turner syndrome, it's one of the conditions where this X chromosome is missing. There's just one, or just one in part of the other, if that makes sense. Where there's just one, that's classic. Where there's one and part of the one that's kind of partly missing, that's mosaic Turner syndrome. So that's kind of like the basic understanding of it. But that's kind of just the tip of the iceberg of what Turner syndrome means in day-to-day life. So let's just get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the medication. So the first thing I ever got was an injection of growth hormone. I had to take it every night from when I was a toddler up until my teen years. I think I was like 15 or something when they were like, okay, yeah, you can stop it. We're not too worried about you growing anymore. I'm still incredibly short, barely 5 foot, I think. So, it did its job, but I'm still incredibly short. And that's probably one of the most thought about traits when it comes to people with Turner syndrome. Certainly, yeah. And it's one of those ones that, I'm grateful I had access to it now. Like, I am grateful, but at the time, I did not want anything to do with it, which, like, if you look at it from a perspective of a kid, it's understandable who wants to be given injections to make them taller. But in the end, it did a lot more than just make me taller. And, you know, I'm so grateful to have had access to it. I'm a part of a generation where we all have access to growth hormone here in the UK, but I'm one, privileged in the generation that I am part of, but I'm also privileged in the fact that I live here in the UK, because it's an incredibly expensive treatment when you don't have access to something like the NHS, which I think is incredibly important as well, that you know, I'm incredibly privileged in the fact that I was diagnosed early, had access to it off the bat when I needed to start growing, and I also had access to something like the NHS, which meant it didn't cost an arm and a leg, you know what I mean? And that it was affordable for me. So I'm incredibly grateful. Now, for Turner syndrome specifically, kind of the next thing that comes into play is when you go into puberty, that kind of age, and I'm talking about HRT. Now, I started off with HRT in like small little pills, and you know, the dosage changes, and you've basically got to keep on that your whole entire adult life, and you know, that's because people with Turner syndrome will have an incredibly imbalanced hormones. This can result in a lot of things, and it makes a lot of things more difficult. It can make you feel unwell, you know, things like that. And you know, there's a lot of things that it just helps with the body working. You know, hormone balance is so incredibly important. That's why people with Turner syndrome need to take HRT. And like I said, I started off with it in like a little tablet, but I think it's been a good while since I switched to a patch. No, sorry, this patch is like a day or two old. I'm gonna have to change it once the weekend's over. But I have been asked if I've been stopping smoking and things like that. No, I'm not stopping smoking. I'm not trying to quit smoking. I am just trying to balance out my hormones and take my endocrinologist's advice and look after my body properly. That's all I'm doing when I've got this patch on. I'm not trying to quit smoking. But it's an understandable mistake to make, because it is just a clear patch, which has nothing to tell you that it's, you know, HRT and things. So it could be mistaken for a nicotine patch, but it's not. I promise you, it's not. So yeah, those are kind of the two main treatments that I've had in regards to solely Turner syndrome itself through my endocrine. But like I say, the missing X, or the partly missing X chromosome, is only the tip of the iceberg. I'm not knitting. Oops. Yeah, there we go. I'm back on to knitting. Yeah, Turner syndrome can lead on to a lot of things. Like, for example, my whole entire life, I've had a little bit of a worry with my kidneys. I basically just have one kind of larger kidney rather than two normal sized ones. So that's a thing. I've had trouble with my liver, which is lovely. I also have diabetes, which, like, they're currently in conversation with me to kind of say that, like, once your diabetes is more controlled, your liver levels will be more controlled too. So we shall see. And we also have to keep a constant eye on our hearts. This is you just have to work very closely with a cardiologist. And we also, I don't know if I have it on me, but we do have a little card that tells people, like, you know, Turner syndrome, like, it's given out by the Turner Syndrome Support Society UK, which is incredibly important, to just say that there's this particular cardio thing. Like, give me 2 seconds. This is the little card that I keep in my purse, at the recommendation of the Turner Syndrome Support Society. Yeah. So I thought I'd show you guys that. And that's also why Turner Syndrome Support Society UK works so closely with medical professionals, like cardiologists and, you know, endocrines and things like that, because things like heart issues, diabetes, liver levels, kidneys, things like that can become a real issue in day-to-day life for someone with Turner syndrome, because these things just have a correlation to it. It's unfortunate, but, you know, it's, you know, having people like the Turner Syndrome Support Society UK makes those things a little bit easier and makes them easier to handle when they arise. So yeah, another thing I wanted to talk about is that it's not just kind of my body that I need to be aware of and think about every day. It's also my head. Just simply because Turner syndrome, it has left me a little bit in a position where I struggle in employment, in education and things like that, because processing instructions properly, numeracy, spatial awareness, hyperactivity, things like that are all incredibly common and result in issues in education. Turner Syndrome Support Society have great pamphlets, great information for educators, employers, and for people with Turner syndrome themselves for navigating these worlds of education and employment, and how to kind of learn how to kind of cooperate with each other, like the person with Turner syndrome and the educators and employers. So it's incredibly important work, incredibly. And it's amazing to see that, you know, there's just so much success that I see every day with people with Turner syndrome. So if you're newly diagnosed, don't let the fact that you struggled in school and you're like, I'm struggling socially at uni. I've talked about my university experience in length in another video. So, and I'm also incredibly, like, I struggled with getting on top of things with my work, and I currently work in a bar restaurant kind of a deal, which has everything that could possibly stress someone out, but, you know, it's fine. But yeah, it's just, that kind of information is just so valuable, and so, yeah, absolutely. Now I'm gonna talk to you guys about the good things Turner syndrome has brought into my life, because it has brought a lot of good things. I went to my first Turner Syndrome Support Society UK conference, and I'm still in contact with those girls to this day. I was 11, as I said, and I'm now 21. It's been 10 years of friendship with these girls, and I would not change any decision I made in becoming friends with them. They have been with me through so much, and, you know, like, they're my main source of communication and anchor to any sort of social life. So I'm so grateful for them every day, and I meet up with them and I see them at conferences, and you know, I know that when something arises, they are just a message away. Like, they were there for me during the whole university fiasco. They were there for me when I got diagnosed with diabetes. They've just been there for me through so much, and I could not thank them enough. So they know who they are, and if you're watching this, girls, I love you so much. Never change. Never, never, never change. So that's one of the, and just the Turner Syndrome Support Society UK family in total is just so welcoming. So, like, every time I see them, I just feel so good, because it does feel like going to a second family. You know what I mean? And spending time in their company just feels so comfortable. So, like, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So that's all I'm gonna say for just now in terms of that. I hope I've given you guys some information to take away, and I hope you guys now understand why Awareness Month is a thing. And yeah, I can only hope that, you know, you took something away from this video. But before you go, if you want any more information, please check out the Turner Syndrome Support Society UK. They will have much more in-depth information, much more up-to-date information. Like, they will have so much for you to look at and learn. So if you want any further information, please check them out. And of course, it wouldn't be a video with me without a little bit of a book recommendation. So our options are sparse in terms of Turner Syndrome representation in media. There's a ton of like non-fiction books. I don't think there's anything in terms of like fiction books other than the one I'm about to show you guys. This is a middle grade book by Sarah Allen, What the Stars Are Made Of, and it's about 12-year-old Libby. She's obsessed with science, and I read this so many years ago, and she has Turner syndrome, and it's just kind of navigating the qualms of middle school with Turner syndrome, and it warmed my heart to actually read a kind of own voice Turner syndrome story in fiction book form. It's just, it warms my heart. So if you want to consume a piece of media with Turner syndrome representation, I would 100% recommend. Because I had to recommend at least one book. I mean, would I be me if I didn't? So with all that being said, like I say, I hope you guys took something away. I did a little bit of knitting. Oh, and I've also got a tattoo for Turner syndrome. It's just a little purple butterfly, because we associate butterflies and purple with Turner syndrome, even though here in the UK that's not necessarily the symbols we use. Especially Turner Syndrome Support Society UK, they use smiley faces. It's a very common misconception that they use purple and butterflies for anything. So it's the smiley faces for Turner Syndrome UK. But yes. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you guys in my next video. I hope you enjoyed. Bye!